So now we've taken care of the API side of things, let's now hook this up to our client. And I'll just clean up the windows here. And what we'll do, we'll start off in the agent.ts for this. And inside our profiles object, we'll add a new request to list the activities. So we'll say list activities. And we'll take in our username, which is going to be a string, and the predicate, also a string. And in this case, we'll use requests.get, use the backtick and profiles / then dollar and username / activities, and then we'll add the question mark and we'll say the predicate is equal to dollar, and in the curly braces we'll specify the predicate. And then over in the profile store, let's open this. What we want to do here is create a new observable to store our user activities. So we'll create a new observable and call it user activities. And we want to make this a type of user activity array. And we'll give this an empty array initially. And we'll also need to create this interface as well. So because it's related to our profiles, let's create it in profile.ts. And we'll just export a new interface called iUserActivity, and we'll just set the ID to be a string, the title to be a string, the category again as a string, and the date will be a type of date. And let's just go back to our profile store and make sure that we bring in the iUserActivity to remove the error. And then we just need an action to load our user activities. So let's just add this. We'll say action load user activities equals, and we'll make this an async method, and we'll pass in our username, which is a string, and the predicate, which is optional and will be a string. And we'll say list.loading. And let's add another observable to track the loading indicator here. So we'll say observable loading activities, and we'll set this equal to false. And we'll say list.loading activities, and that's spelled incorrectly. So let's just spell it correctly. Equals true. And then I'll just add the try catch block and pass in the error. And in the case there's an error, I'll just say toast.error and say problem loading activities, and add the run-in action, and then just turn off the loading indicator and set this to false. And then in the try block, what we'll do is we'll say const activities equals await agents.profiles.list activities, and we'll pass in the username and the predicates, which is optional, so we'll use the exclamation mark, and then we'll just say run in action, and we'll say list.userActivities equals activities, and we'll say list.loading activities equals false. And with this in place, what we'll do next is we'll just go back to Explorer, and inside our features folder, inside the profiles, let's just create a new file and call it profile activities.tsx. And this is a bit verbose, and once again, because it's not really anything new and we just want to finish off the functionality, let's use a snippet for this as well. And the one we want to use is S21.11.1, and this is the full code for the profile activities. So let's just bring this in. And let's just take a quick look at what's going on in here. And what we're doing is we're creating a tab, or we're using the semantic UI tabs and creating 3 different menu items. One for future events, one for past events, and one for hosting. And inside the component itself, we're getting access to our profile store and bringing in the load user activities method, the profile of the user we're accessing, loading activities and user activities. And when this component mounts, we're loading the user activities. And what we also have in here is a handle tab change method that we're using when the tab, the on change event or the on tab change event is clicked. And we're calling this particular method. And inside here, what we're doing is we're setting the predicate based on the active index that's being clicked, and we're just using the numbers of the indexes in this case. So the default case is the future events. The second tab, which is going to be having an active index of 1, is going to be past, and the third tab, which has the active index of 2, is going to be hosting. So we're basically just setting the inside this tab change handler, or this handle tab change, we're setting this predicate and then we're passing it into our load user activities method, and we're passing in the username and the predicates that we get from whichever tab we've just clicked on. And then inside the JSX here, what we've got is our tab pane along with our normal grids just for spacing purposes. And then to display the activities, we're just using card groups in this case, and 4 items per row. And then we're just mapping over our user activities and displaying the content inside a card inside our component here. So let's just add this to our profile content page or component. And what we'll do is we'll just replace the existing tab pane and we'll swap it for profile activities, and I'll just reformat. And what we should find is that we can now view the activities for a user and also select the different options we have available for our filtering. So let's go take a look. And if I take a look at the activities tab, we can see the loading spinner and we can see all of the events for Bob. And we've also got these as links, so we can click on any of these and go straight to the activity in question. And if I click on past events, then we see the 2 past events, and hosting, we see the activities that Bob is hosting. So just a super quick run through on setting up this functionality. And we used a lot of snippets here because there isn't really anything new to show you, and it's quite a lot of typing to just set up this small piece of functionality, and I did just want to include it in the application. More of a completionist thing than looking at anything new at this stage. So this brings us to the end of the paging and filtering section of the course. And before we save our changes into GitHub, let's just take a look and see if we've left anything behind in our console. I can see that in my activity dashboard I've left behind the button there, so I'm just going to clean that up and remove the unused button imports, and I'll just refresh the page and just go back to the activities, make sure everything looks okay. We've still got our vertical scrolling, infinite scroll, that all looks good. And what I'm going to do is save these changes into source control. So let's just close these windows down and click on the source control tab, and I'll just say end of section 21 and stage these changes and control return and push these on up to GitHub. And what we'll finish off with is a short summary.